You are listening to the Aim to Win in Business and Life podcast with Tony Coleman-Brown, where we believe that in life, you're either winning or learning, but never losing. So let's get ready to win with Tony Coleman-Brown.
In this episode of the Aim to Win in Business and Life podcast, you will hear a chat between me and my girlfriend, Jannie Pilgram. Jannie and I host a weekly Facebook Live, and on this particular live, we discussed a workshop that I conducted where I asked the group 21 questions that could potentially change your life. I got this idea from Tim Ferriss of the 4-Hour Workweek. He actually had a blog post where he spoke about 17 questions. And the question that I ask on this episode is, what if the only way to solve a problem is by subtracting? And subtracting is exactly what I did to clear up some funds, or as I titled this episode, trim the fat out of my monthly budget. This episode is a good one, so get ready to learn and get ready to win right now. Tonight, Jannie and I are going to talk about 21 questions. So Jannie, I went to a retreat. It was called, we talked about this before. It was called the Girl Get Your Life Together retreat. We talked about that. It was an amazing, amazing retreat, and I hosted a workshop at that retreat. It was called 21 questions that could change your life. And it was really thought-provoking, and it was a very interactive workshop where I talked about certain questions that you can ask yourself that could really, make a difference in your life. And what happened with me today was, over the past 24 hours, one of the things that I did was I actually took a hard look at my finances, because I was telling one of my other girlfriends that, I used to be that girl. I used to be that chick that was like really anal about her finances. And, I would just check my finances all the time. I was always on top of everything. But then, life happens. I had my first daughter and things changed a little bit. My priorities changed and I slipped a little bit. I was still pretty on top of things, but it did slip a little bit. And then I got married and had another child, right? And it really, kind of got out of control. And I think that sometimes when you have disappointments in life and things don't go necessarily the way that you want them to go, you kind of will let things pile on. And a couple of things that I noticed that was happening with me, I know that I make good money. That's like hands down. That's, no question about that. But I kept saying, where's all my money going? I just don't understand. I feel like things are spiraling out of control. I had a lot of paper. And so when the weather started turning, I started looking at different ways to get rid of my paper, looking at ways. And it's not like I have a lot of clutter, because I don't have a lot of clutter as it relates to my papers, because I do a pretty good job of hiding them all around. I'll stuff them in bags and all of this stuff. But I said, this year things are going to be different. And I also asked myself some of the questions that I asked the ladies. And one of the questions that I had asked the ladies was, what if the only way that you could solve your problems is by subtracting? So I asked myself that question. What if the only way I could solve my financial issues is by subtracting? So one of the things I did was I took a hard look at my budget. I took a hard look at what I was spending money on, how much debt I really had. I looked at the number, I faced the number, and I said, you know what? One of the things that I'm going to do is I am going to definitely get out of this debt situation, and I am going to free up more money in my monthly budget. So there were a couple of things that I looked at. I work for a place where we have a pension, and I worked for several years in another company, and they have something called a pension buyback where you could buy back your time, right? And so I decided that I was going to do that, but I was banking on a promotion that was promised to me that actually didn't come through. It faded out. So the paperwork was submitted, but the paperwork wasn't approved. So I couldn't get mad really at the people that were rooting for me, but I could get mad at that hate group that kind of turned it down and said that, it was more of the same of what I do. So I was really disappointed and a little bit sad. I had already started this process of buying back my time. It was very expensive because the reality is I'm like 5 years away from potentially retiring. When you buy back your time, you have to, you don't have to make sure it's done within those 5 years, but that's the preference. So I said, you know what? I wonder if I could just stop this and revisit it at another time, because I have no doubt in my mind that I will be making more money. You know what I mean? So that's not a doubt in my mind. We have the books delayed but not denied. So I'm basically saying to myself, I've been delayed, but I won't be denied. But at this point in time, I'm just not ready to have this amount of money coming out of my paycheck. So when I actually looked at how much it was, it ended up being $700.
Hey guys, it's Toni Coleman-Brown here with your motivational moment. And today I want to give you one of my favorite quotes, which is, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. This quote is by author Ash, and he said this as a reminder that we should take a very simple approach to life, because simple changes can make a major difference in your business and in life. Thank you for allowing me to give you this motivational moment, and now back to the show.
$700 a month. And I said, wow, that is a lot, right? But if I would have gotten the promotion, trust me, it would have covered that and then some. But it didn't happen. I had to make a real hard decision to stop that and revisit it at another time. So I didn't know whether I could or couldn't, but I called the pension company, right, NICERS for us, and I asked them if I could stop it. And they said, absolutely, you can. But if you start it again, it's going to be more expensive. And I was just like, okay, it doesn't matter. Let's just stop it right now and revisit it at another time. So that's exactly what I did. So boom, automatically I freed up $700. But then, I realized that, I have a lot of insurance. I'm also really anal about that, because figure that if something happens to me, I want my kids to have a lot. But, you can end up in a situation being overly insured. And that's exactly where I was. So I said, you know what? One of these insurance policies, I'm just going to have to cancel for right now. And that's exactly what I did. I took one and I put it down.
That was a term, or
it was a
I'm assuming it was a term.
It was a term.
Right.
So basically, I put that one down and I ended up, saving myself another $130. So boom, right off the bat, that was $830 freed up in my budget. But then I didn't stop right there, right? I looked at all of the other things that I have, and I have, I have my notes right here. Hey, boo. I have my notes right here, and I went through all the other things in my bank account that was coming out of my bank account, I should say. Things that I didn't use, tools, business tools that I wasn't using. So for example, GoToWebinar is $76.30 a month. Why am I paying for GoToWebinar when I'm using Zoom and paying Zoom $56 a month or $57 a month, right? So that just didn't make sense. And then I have all of these. I have three gym memberships. Now, I should be fine as hell. I should be skinny as I don't know what, with 3 gym memberships. 2 is for me, 1 is for my daughter. Okay, so basically she has her own job and she could pay for her Planet Fitness membership. And I don't need 2 gym memberships. So, okay, we're going to get rid of that. And then all of these other business tools that I had that I just wasn't even using, and then like Audible, I don't need Audible. So we're going to get rid of that. And I found other things in my monthly budget that I could get rid of. So all in all, after I was done, I freed up $1,200 in my monthly budget. $1,200 in my monthly budget.
Especially, actually, I think that now, spring season is a wonderful time to do that for a number of reasons. I remember listening to, this was a couple of years ago, and this was really focused on women who are interested in having their own business. And then at some point in your business, there may be a down season or downtime. And for a lot of people, unless of course you're in the travel business, a lot of time that may be the summertime because people are traveling. Maybe they're not going to as many conferences. And that was the time to really look at your budget across the board. And it was saying, like, say that you were talking about if you're not going to be using your conference software.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's something that you do use, but during the summer months you don't, cancel it during that time. They were saying even if you go on vacation, maybe if you have Netflix, it's $7.99, cancel that. For example, I just canceled I had a free LinkedIn service, and I was paying like $53 a month just so I would be able to email people, which was very useful. But if I start thinking about the cost benefit analysis of how many people I was using, how much business it was getting me compared to what it is a month, $53, that adds up. So I just actually canceled that. And then so at one point I had, I think it was Canva, and so I had a professional. I said, well, you know what? I don't use it.
You don't need the professional.
At one point I was using a lot, and I liked the stuff. So I said, I'll just use credit. So I had the credit, keep $20 there, and I'll just use it when I need it. And so now is a perfect time to, and it can be across the board. Like at one point we didn't even have a phone because we have cell phones. So it's to look at the things that you really don't use. Insurance could be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, LinkedIn, it could be Netflix. It could be like I prefer Hulu over Netflix, but now Netflix has some great things. So maybe I will cancel Hulu and keep Netflix. So it's just looking at everything. And, in every movement, it's like there's sacrifice. That's what Joe Madison says. So it's like some things are sacrifice and some things just really cutting the fat.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And boy, I trimmed a whole heck of a lot of fat. All of those things that we have, and a lot of people have it. And, and it's just by also too ask yourself the tough questions. Asking myself the question, what if the only way I could solve a problem is by subtracting? And so I definitely, subtracted, and I know it's going to pay off in the long run. And then also too, a lot of times people will ask me questions. Well, I don't have the money to really, market and promote my business and things like that. Or they want to attend conferences and events, and they'll say, well, I don't have the money, but the money is sitting right there, and they don't realize that they do have the money. The money is there. You just have to find it in your budget.
Thank you for listening to the Aim to Win in Business and Life podcast with Tony Coleman-Brown. Please visit TonyColemanBrown.com for more information on this episode. And get ready to win.